What's going on, everybody? It's your boy SoDebNair. I am back with another story time. We're going to do episode 2 of this of dealing with Jacob. So let's get into it.
Access granted.
I feel like being so debonair is like it's me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not cocky, but when you tell me I'm the best, I already know.
All right, y'all. So the last time we talked, I talked to you guys about Jacob saying that he had moved my stuff out of my house. So I got home and I walked in. All my stuff was still there. So I was like, okay, what's happening here? And I called him. I was like, hey, what's the issue? And again, I don't think I talked about this on the last episode, but one of the times, I think the second time that he took me back home, I let him come to my house. So that's how he knew where I lived at. So I did that part. So after that, I was really done with Jacob because I didn't really want to, that was scary for me. I'm sorry, it was. And I think being someone who is not out at the time, that kind of threat is really, it hits home, it hits a little bit different. So I told him, I was just like, I can't deal with you anymore. I was like, I'm thank God this is not like my hometown. So, have your way, do what you want to do. I don't really care. And he was like, well, I mean, it was just a joke. I said, it wasn't a joke to me because it's like you broke into my house and stole all my and to move in with you. Like, I'm not doing that. And so I think after that, like this big turnoff came, which, I already had one, because of the feedback, but I already had one, but this made it even worse. I was like, he's just like a psychopath to me. Like in my mind, I couldn't really deal with him. And so there was like weeks had gone by. He kept calling and he wanted to meet up and talk and apologize or whatever. And again, y'all, this is like the only other gay person outside of Jamie that I could really like deal with. So maybe like 2 or 3 weeks later, I did like respond to him. And I'm like, the shit you did was just, it wasn't cool to me. And like, I can't jeopardize that because I'm like, I'm not in a relationship, but I'm not out. Like, so like, even if you tell it, like, it's not going to be like, it's going to be some explosive conversation that you're having, or you're really like pushing me out on a limb. Cause there's people, they speculate this all the time with me. So it doesn't really bother me to that point. It's the fact that you scared it out of me. And he was like, oh, well, I didn't mean to do that. I'm like, well, but you did though. Like, to be honest, like you really did. And I don't know how to really deal with you and like trust you right now. Like it doesn't make sense for me. So he was upset about it. And I feel like he was like contemplating on something because even though like we were having that conversation, he still kept contacting me. And sometimes I would answer, sometimes I would not. But then he would talk about his brother. And his brother looked like him, just like a way better looking version of him. And I mean, just my brother is this, and everything I like to hear when it comes down to the one man, he was telling me that his brother was this. I was like, okay. And I'm like, I'm thinking he's like trying to palm me up on the brother. But then he eventually says like his brother is straight and he's in jail. And I'm like, so why are you even bragging about this? Like, it didn't make sense to me. So after that, he started bragging about his cousin. And in the midst of this, he's trying to deal with me as well. So one time he had called me. He was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm at work. What do you want? He was like, oh, well, I just want to see if you were like open hanging out. I was like, I'm not. And I got home and I was like, he hit me up and he was like, what are you doing? And I said, I just got home, about to like shower. I got to clean my house and I'm going to go to the grocery store. He was like, what are you from the grocery store? So I told him, not thinking anything of this. And so literally This man went to the grocery store and everything I listed off that I was going to buy from the grocery store, he bought it and left it at my front door. So I'm like, I'm not thinking nothing of the conversation. And because like, at the beginning of like this conversation, I was really starting to do everything. So I knew it would take me like a few hours to get to the grocery store. So when I actually was started leaving to go to the grocery store, I walked outside of my house and there's grocery bags sitting outside of my house. See, this is that right here. Like this would be a sweet gesture if it was someone that like, I'm expressing my love for, or there's a liking here, but this ain't it. I called him. I was like, "Did you drop all stuff in my house?" He was like, "Oh yeah, the stuff you just said you want to go to the store and get." He was like, "My Instacart, to be honest." Why would you do that? He was like, "Well, because I just want to show you that I like you or whatever." I'm like, "I don't like you. I don't like you." And you buying these groceries, like, I mean, thank you. This is what I'm saying in my head. But this not gonna make me like you even more. Like this is it's not gonna be it. And maybe like I mean, maybe I could have dealt with like the beanbag situation, but the whole I moved your stuff out your house situation made it worse for me. Like I just couldn't. So I was like, you might want to come get these groceries because they're gonna sit outside of my house. I'm not gonna keep them because I don't want you to say that you did something for me, and then this makes the situation like where like I owe you or um, anything where like I'm obligated to talk to you. So just come get them. This is your shit. I don't need it. He's like, I'm not gonna come get it. So just leave it out there. Put it in the like neighbor's yard or something. It doesn't matter. Put it in somebody else's door. I said, I'm not moving it. So come get it, or it's gonna sit outside of my house. And I moved to the side, and he was like, I'm not coming to get it. So I looked outside for his car because I'm like, if he left it here, he wants to see if I'm going to get it or not. So I looked outside for his car. I walked all around my parking lot. I didn't see his car. So when I got back, I did take the stuff from my house and I kept it. But I did take a picture of it sitting in front of someone else's door. So he thought that I did not take the stuff. So that wasn't working. So then it came to about the brother. Now it comes to about the cousin. So the cousin, he was bragging about his cousin or whatever. Oh, he's so cute. He's all the things I want to hear. He's talking about the cousin. So I see the picture of the cousin. I'm like, oh, he's really cute. But I never said this to him. It seemed like every time that I talked to him, he was talking about the cousin. So eventually, because the cousin didn't live in Dayton, Ohio. He lived in like Cincinnati. He lived somewhere else besides Dayton. I'm trying to ask questions without asking questions about the cousin, but I don't think I really know how to do it. But I think I did a good job because he never really asked about it. But I was kind of asking like, okay, like why do you? I mean, you bring your cousin. Is he like coming to visit? Like, will I see him often? Like, it's just like he's bringing him up like I'm gonna see this person. He never really like gives me a direct answer. He's like, oh no, I'm just telling him about my family or whatever. I've never shared my family business with him at all, ever. And so I'm just like, well, I didn't know why he was doing this. But what I did know is that I liked the cousin. I was like in love with the cousin. And I eventually ended up talking to the cousin on the phone through him. And I was like, how do I get his freaking phone number? I need to talk to him. I never got it. So let's skip maybe like a year. I have moved back to Columbus and he lived in Dayton. So I moved to Columbus. He kept texting me and texting me. And I finally ended up answering the phone. He said that he was coming to Columbus. That's what it was. And I was like, okay. He was like, and my cousin's in town. We were staying they were staying at this very popular, very expensive hotel downtown in Columbus, Ohio. It ain't that much to see down there, y'all, but the hotel was amazing. So I was like, I'm intrigued. And he was like, well, I'll be there tomorrow. So, just pack you a little bag or whatever. Stay the weekend with us. So I was like, all right, fine, I'm gonna do it. He was like, just send me your address. I wasn't doing that. So when he got to, so the next day he gets there and he was like, what's the address? So I gave the address to the corner store by my house. Because at the time I was living with my mom. And so I gave the address to the corner store by my mom's house. He couldn't find it for some reason. And so I gave him the name of 2 streets that was by it. And it was like the corner of 2 streets. And he was able to find that. And so when he did, literally when I gave it to him, I started walking to my house. I was like, I don't want him to see me coming out of the house at all. Well, I started walking as soon as I gave him that, because I already had my bag packed or whatever. I get down. I walk out of my house. I gave him that. But at the time, y'all, there's no apps or nothing like that. We just had cell phones. So, and there was no FaceTime or nothing like that. So you can't be like, oh, I'm walking. So I just was on the phone with him like, okay, I'm walking to my house now. And there's a house that's on the corner of this. He actually drives from, I can see where he's driving from. He's driving from the corner store. So he must have knew I gave him the wrong address because I was at a store. I walk down and he's pulling down the street. He's driving down the street. So I get to the corner or whatever. They stop. And again, y'all, I know what his car looked like because it was an orange Mustang. They pull up. The cousin's probably in the front seat. And when I get in, he's either going to get in the back or I'm going to get in the front. I didn't know because I didn't know what he had told. And Jacob knew I didn't really like him like that. They pull up and Jacob gets out. He gives me a hug. And I'm like, a little friendly pat on the back. And then I walk to the passenger side so I can get in the car. And the cousin gets out. And I'm like, I just liked everything that I saw. So he gets out. He gives me a hug. And I'm hugging him like, baby, today's today. And then he pulls the seat back, gets in the back seat, and then he pulls the seat back for me to get in. I get in, I turn around, and there's another boy in the car. At this point, I'm up to the motherfucking set, because who is this? I don't know nothing about this. Who is this person? The cousin introduced me to his boyfriend. And I'm like, this is like, I want to go back in the house because I'm not hanging out with this tonight, like the whole weekend. I don't want to, but something was like, just go because you never know what's going to happen. So I did. So I go, I get in the car. I'm irritated about the boyfriend in the bag. And so we're talking, but all my conversation is for the cousin. It's so good to meet you. What are you here for? Blah, blah, blah. Yada, yada, yada. All my conversation is for the cousin. Get downtown. We get to the hotel. We go in the room. I drop my bag off. Everybody's like, they're hungry. And so we end up going to White Castles. Everybody's telling what they want because Jacob is buying the food for everybody. So everybody said what they want. So Jacob and the boyfriend stay inside. At the time, I was with the Black and Mounds. So I was like, well, I'm going to go outside and smoke a Black and Mild while they make the food because I thought it was going to be like a 10 to 15 minute wait. So I go outside, smoke my Black and Mild, and the cousin walks out. And I'm like, okay, keep it together, keep it together, keep it together. And he was like, you fine. And I was like, I know that, But it's good to hear you say that like in person. And he was like, man, I've been waiting to meet you for so long. And, we've been talking on the phone and, through my cousin, but now like in person, we can meet and talk. And I was like, in my head, like, I really love you so much. But I was like, yeah, it's really cool, And he was like, so, what's the plan for the weekend? I said, oh, this is not my weekend. I didn't make no plans. I was invited to be with you guys, so I don't know. So he was like, well, can I tell you something? I was like, sure, what's up? He was like, I really like you. I really like you too, but clearly you have a boyfriend and then I got to say it was your cousin. So what's that look like? And he was like, well, he's like my ex. And he's like, well, he's my ex, but I'm just visiting and, because I was here, I just wanted to ask to hang around. So I just invited him because I didn't know that this was going to happen. I said, what's happening? He was like, well, me and you. I was like, oh, so Jacob didn't tell you that I was going to be around? He was like, nah. I was like, oh, well, I'm here. He was like, I hate this part. I turned around. I could see Jacob looking through the window. And I was like, I don't think that this is good for us to be out here talking this long. I said, because literally he's been like talking you up to me like me and you would be a good fit. He was like, well, I mean, you're definitely somebody I would talk to. I don't know. I was like, but your boyfriend's inside and he's inside. I don't want no shit. Like, because again, y'all, I'm not out at the time. He was like, oh, yeah, me too. He was like, well, before I leave, let's exchange numbers. I was like, all right, cool, we can do that. So we went back inside, but I could tell that there was some irritation from Jacob. So we went back inside. Maybe like 5 minutes later, the food was made. We got back in the car. Then we drove back to the hotel. Me and Jacob got into an argument about the conversation with me and the cousin. But I didn't know that he was like, we need to talk. And I was like, all right, cool, fine. What's going on? And so we went into a event space because there was nobody there and the door was unlocked. So we went to an event space and we got into a full blown out argument. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with you like this. And I thought I was coming to meet the cousin. Like, I had no idea that that's supposed to be like a meetup for you and me and him and the guy. I thought I was supposed to meet the cousin. And he was like, that's not why I brought you here. This is and this. I'm like, in my mind, like, there's no Uber at this time, yo. So like, I gotta suffer through this whole freaking time till it takes me back home. So I literally like switched. I was like, well, I mean, that's what I thought it was. So I mean, if it's me and you, it's me and you. So we go back to the room. It's very agitating. Like, it doesn't seem good. It doesn't like it's gonna be a fun time. No, nothing. But he's like, I hate that you don't really want to deal with me. He's like, because you're so sexy and this and this. And I'm like, well, I mean, I've been very honest about that. I'm like, I mean, but we still have sex, whatever. So he was like, yeah. He was like, so can we do it now? And I was like, I don't want to. I don't think did I have a cell phone? Oh, I did have a cell phone at the time. But I couldn't call anybody because no one else was hanging out with these random. So I was like, I'm going to go through with this. So I was like, sure, whatever, fine. So we go back to the room. The cousin and the boyfriend ain't there. So we start having sex, and then maybe like 10 minutes, well, it probably went up 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes in. I'm not long-winded, and I ain't had no long-winded sex. But maybe 5 minutes in, the cousin and the boyfriend walk in. But I just feel destroyed at the time. I feel like he set me up so that the cousin could see us having sex, so he wouldn't talk to me anymore. And I remember, like, while we were, he rubbed on my inner thigh while we were me and Jacob was having sex. And I cringed because I'm like, I don't want this to be him. And literally, I just turned over and I went to sleep. So I couldn't even deal with the whole situation. I'm just tired. I'm drunk. I need to go sleep. The next day, we get up and they wanted to do something in the city. I'm like, y'all, this is Columbus. There's really nothing to do during the daytime. But have at it. We ended up going to like some bars because this is like a Saturday. So Sunday, like we did have I think it was around football time too because OSU have all their games, whatever. So we ended up going down to like the Arena District. We were all buying drinks for each other, watching the game because we always watch Ohio State football. If you were from Columbus, Ohio, you watch Ohio State football, period. And Jacob had to go to the bathroom. And the cousin, I think, was outside smoking. And it's me and the cousin. And he was like, man, I thought you liked me. And I was like, I do. He said, well, then why would you do that? I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you want me to say? Don't blame me. He was like, well, I just feel like this will never work. And I'm like, well, I mean, how does it work unless you tell him? Because he knows that I don't like dealing with him. But you had said to him, and then, what about this guy that you with? He's like, that's not a problem because again, we're not together. I'm like, well, I mean, he was introduced to me as your boyfriend. He's like, well, I'll figure it out. After that day, like, we secretly kind of hung out, but it wasn't like very obvious. I don't know how to explain it, but there was like some flirtation still going on between me and the cousin while they weren't looking. So let's move on to the next day. So the next day, I go back home. I'm like, man, I did not get that cousin's number. I didn't want to ask Jacob for it because I knew that was going to cause a problem. So I searched for him on Facebook and find him. I'm contemplating asking Jacob, but I know it's going to be a no. I ended up saying that I was trying to get a job at a bank in Ohio, in Columbus. And Jacob had, I mean, not Jacob, but the cousin had the information. So I was like, hey, your cousin was talking about a job that I can get in Columbus at this bank. I mean, I was like, can you ask him for me? And he was like, I'll just give you his number. I don't think he was thinking about this. And honestly, I didn't think this was gonna work, but it did. And so he gave me his number and I texted him. I was like, hey, this is me. And he was like, oh, what's up? How'd you get my number? And I was like, Jacob gave it to me. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, he gave it to me. I told him that you were talking about some job. Literally, y'all, we never told him no job. I think I was already working in the bank. Actually, I was working in the bank. So I was like, I just told him that because I need to figure out how to get your number. So from this time, me and him started talking like every day, right? But he was dealing with somebody else who dealt with Jamie. So I'm gonna leave this here, y'all, because this gets very messy. So I'm gonna leave it here. Drop down in the comment section, y'all, what y'all think so far of this story of Jacob. Like the video, share the video, comment in the comment section. Let me know so far what you guys think. I'm getting out of here and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, y'all.
I did it, 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 I did it.